specifically. Now back to the coronavirus and specifically the role pharmaceutical companies are playing in dealing with the outbreak.
Well, today Congress approved $8.3 billion to fight the virus, and a good portion of that money will go toward development of a vaccine, which could be at least a year away.
Joining us now is author Gerald Posner. He is the author of an upcoming book called Pharma, Greed, Lies, and the Poisoning of America. Welcome. Thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so your book isn't that kind to the pharmaceutical company, to pharmaceutical industries, rather. And you say that the pharmaceutical industry might actually be an obstacle to vaccine development. Explain.
There's a speed bump, but not right now, because what you just said a second ago, Elliot, $8 billion approved today, that's fantastic. That taxpayer money is going to go to research. We're going to get a vaccine in record time. The bad news is record time means a year to 15 months. Still, then the question becomes, finally, somebody has to manufacture it. 100 million doses, maybe in the U.S. That's only pharmaceutical firms that can do it. When that comes around next year, they're going to have to do it near cost. They can't make a profit on it. This is a worldwide emergency. We can see it, 300 million children not going to school from pre-K to high school around the world. So the pharmaceutical companies have to come up to the plate. Taxpayers are putting in now with research money. When they produce it next year, I'd like to see them do it near cost.
Well, pharmaceutical companies are in the business of making and selling drugs to make a profit. Is there something wrong with that?
No, not at all, as a matter of fact, and they make a very good profit on all things. I think this is unusual. This is the first looming pandemic we've had since 2009, and this one seems worse to all of us because we're going through it on social media for the very first pandemic ever. So you go on to Instagram or Facebook to see what a friend is doing and where they're going to dinner, and you're getting coronavirus news. So there's this fear that is spread, what I call a panic dema. And in this light, I do think it's an unusual situation. Sometimes we ask for extraordinary sacrifices as a country, and I think this time we might be asking pharmaceutical companies to put aside the profit motive and contribute what they can on making sure this is stopped at some point.
Well, is there a history of them doing anything like that?
Unfortunately, the history is, for those who might remember, any of your viewers, in the 70s when there was swine flu and a big scare, pharmaceutical companies, 4 of them made 100 million doses of the vaccine for swine flu, and then they held it back until they were given a reasonable profit, and they were also given no liability concerns. I don't think that will happen again. There's going to be a lot of public pressure on them this time.
Why does it take them 12 to 18 months?
It's the human testing, because in between going from the Petri dish in the laboratory to actually giving it to us at all the drugstores at CVS and Walgreens, they test it on a group of people. Those are the brave people who are really the test subjects to find out if it works or not, or if it has terrible side effects. So before they give it straight to us, there is that period in which they have to make sure that it's effective against the virus and that also it's safe for us to take, that it's not going to be worse than the virus itself.
Well, with this expedited process and this kind of state of emergency, what are the chances that there could be negative effects if you do take the vaccine?
Well, there's always a possibility of a negative effect. How many times do you hear somebody say, I took a flu vaccination, I got the flu, which isn't really possible. People do say that. What we are going to have in a couple of months, maybe by April, are drugs to treat coronavirus, which we don't have now, antiviral drugs. So it's not a vaccine where you get an inoculation and then you can't get the virus at all, but this will be a case that if you do get sick, you take this antiviral drug, and at least it won't be as serious. That'll be a big step forward, because what are we worried about? Not just getting sick, but possibly dying, even though that's a small risk. If you take away the possibility of dying and you just say to people you're going to get sick, you take this drug, that'll be a big step forward.
I'm struck by the title of your book where you say Pharma, Greed, Lies, and the Poisoning of America. That's very strong.
It is strong, although I must say that there are some great stories in here of real dedicated scientists who are working for the better of finding drugs that really make cures and cancer and everything else. I tell those stories as well. They're not represented in the subtitle, but they are in the book.
Okay, Gerald Posner, the author of Pharma, Greed, Lies, and the Poisoning of America, which is coming out next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elliot.
Thanks for being here. We'll be right back.